What is up, everybody? My name is Adam, otherwise known as Young NBA Analyst. Before this video starts, as I always say, make sure you follow me on my Instagram at Young NBA Analyst. I post a lot of content on there and I'm very active on there. Make sure you go subscribe to my podcast because I also do a lot of podcasts. And be sure to go follow my TikTok because I also got that going. And be sure to follow my Twitter. I'm not too active on there, but I want to get more active. So, in today's YouTube video, we're going over the 2021 playoff bracket and my predictions because the play-in tournament is officially over and now we have a completely set, definite playoff bracket. So let's go over my official predictions on how I think it's gonna go. So as you can see, we got the bracket right here, and I'm gonna start with the West and talk about the Jazz versus Grizzlies matchup. If I'm being completely honest, Jazz are gonna win. Okay, Grizzlies definitely earned their way to the spot, but I don't know if they have the personnel to be able to beat the talent and depth of the Jazz, and Jazz are probably going to win in about 5 or 6 games. Moving on to the Clippers versus the Mavericks. This one should be an interesting series. This was also a first round series matchup from last year. The only difference is the 4th versus 5th seed matchup. The Clippers are motivated this year. They got a great solid team. So do the Mavericks, but I feel comfortable taking the Clippers. I don't think I don't think Paul George is going to be choking big time this year. I think Kawhi is solid. I think the Clippers got some great assets. I think they've really gone under the radar this year, especially Kawhi. They just haven't really been talked about. And the Mavericks, they don't have an incredible amount of experience. And honestly, their depth is not amazing, but I like the Clippers' depth. I'm going to take the Clippers here in probably, I'd say, 6 games. Moving on to the Blazers and Nuggets series. This one will definitely be an interesting series. 2 firepower offensive teams. Obviously, you got the Blazers with Dame and CJ. I think they're fully healthy right now. And then you got Jokic and Michael Porter Jr. Obviously, they don't have Jamal Murray, which is going to be a big loss for them because Murray is one of the best young playoff performers in the NBA. But Jokic should still be a great asset. He's my pick for the MVP this year. MPJ has been on a tear recently. And then, of course, you have the Nuggets' depth, but I think I'm actually going to take the Blazers here. The Nuggets, their injuries have hurt them a little bit, and the Blazers are confident. Dame is locked in, and the Blazers have been pretty solid this year. I think they're a little bit better on defense, even though they're still a really bad defensive team. But then again, the Nuggets are also not very good on defense either. So it'll be a very tight series. I could easily see it going to 7 games, but my pick would be the Blazers. And then finally, finishing off the West, we got the Suns versus the Lakers matchup. Honestly, the Lakers are going to win. I feel like people are kind of sleepy on the Lakers, which is funny because if I said that at the beginning of the season, I would get laughed at. But since they've been, their main guys, LeBron and AD, have been out with injury for a little bit, and we've just been seeing the role players, I think people are starting to sleep on the Lakers a little bit, but the Lakers are healthy now, and the Lakers have a fantastic roster, not to mention they have a coach, Frank Vogel, who I believe to be the most underrated coach in the NBA. There's a reason why the Lakers were still relevant when they didn't have LeBron and AD, and their best player was like Kyle Kuzma. So the Suns are obviously great this year with Chris Paul, Devin Booker. They got solid depth. Obviously, like guys like Mikal Bridges, DeAndre Ayton, who's not bad. He's getting there. He's still young. But this could be a close series, but I'm going to take the Lakers. I feel like they got more experience, they got more talent, and I don't think the Suns are going to be able to stop the Lakers in a playoff series. I can see the Lakers winning in about 6 games. So that rounds out the West. Now moving on to the Eastern Conference, I'm going to have to take the Sixers beating the Wizards. The reason I say that is because, the Sixers are far more talented, better on both ends. There's really not much to explain. I think many people can agree with me that the Sixers will win. However, a closer series is the Knicks versus the Hawks. 2 teams that have not been to the playoffs in a little bit. 2 teams that are surprisingly very high in the standings, or relatively high in the standings. This will actually be a close series. I can easily see this one going to 7 games. But, on one hand, you have the Knicks, who have Julius Randle, who should be the unanimous most improved player this year. He had an insane breakout season. And then he obviously got great assets like RJ Barrett and Nerlens Noel, who's having a killer defensive season. The Knicks' overall team defense has been amazing. And a lot of that has to be attributed to Tom Thibodeau, who came in and installed a great defensive system, and a lot of the guys on the Knicks have really improved defensively this season. So that's going to be a big key for them, because if you look at the Hawks, they have a great offense, they have great depth, but Trae Young usually struggles against very good defenses. But then again, the Hawks have a great interior presence in Clint Capella, and the Hawks do have a lot of offensive firepower. This could go either way, and like I said, it's probably going to go to 7 games, but I'm going to have to take slight edge to the Knicks. The Knicks got some great assets who have experience. They know what they're doing, and honestly, I'm pretty confident in the Knicks this year. The Knicks are back. They are relevant, and they are back. Moving on to a relatively controversial series, the Bucks versus the Heat. The reason I say it's controversial is just because many people have different mixed opinions on this, and obviously this was the second round matchup where the Heat knocked out the Bucks in 5, which is a big surprise to many fans, and has also led many fans to believe that the Heat might actually do something similar this year. Now, I think people don't understand that the Bucks, just how much they improved this year. Yes, they're the 3 seed now, but that has more so to do with the improvements with the Sixers and Nets. The Bucks are solid this year. Jrue Holiday's a great asset, and the Bucks are probably gonna have a great playoffs. Giannis is looking solid this year. I've seen some people say that the Bucks supporting cast is gonna underperform, which I don't understand at all. Jrue Holiday is a great asset. I think people are underrating just how much value Jrue Holiday is going to bring. Obviously, they got Chris Middleton, and the Bucks have very underrated depth. But I've always been one to say, don't doubt the Heat. Jimmy Butler is locked in. The Heat are more of a playoff team anyways, so their regular season performance isn't really relevant when talking about this. The Heat are a great playoff performing team. They still got a pretty solid matchup against the Bucks, but overall, I'm going to have to take the Bucks. I'm confident in the Bucks this season. They have a legit team, great depth, a great big 3. It's tough for me to doubt them. Like, they have many guys who bring value in multiple different ways, and I'm confident saying they can beat the Heat. And our final matchup from the East, first round, is the Nets versus Celtics, and I don't have to say much here. The Nets are going to win. Okay, they're just far more talented. I can easily see them winning in 4 games, maybe 5. They could sweep them, but I can see the Celtics sneaking in like 1 game. So that finishes off the first round. Now on to the second round, where we have the Jazz versus the Clippers. This should definitely be a close series, 2 top teams in the West this season. But you have, on one hand, Jazz, incredible depth, great 2-way play. Clippers, probably a little bit more experienced. Rudy Gobert struggles a little bit in the playoffs. Teams throw him in pick and rolls, but I wouldn't worry about that too much. You got Donovan Mitchell, who's one of the best young playoff performers in the NBA. You got many guys who had great value. The Clippers also have pretty solid depth this year, and like I said, I feel like people have kind of been sleeping on the Clippers. They've kind of gone under the radar. But if their guys perform well, then they can take the series. And actually, I do have the Clippers winning this series. The Jazz are a phenomenal team, and honestly, I feel like the Jazz have been kind of getting overhated because I've seen multiple people saying like they may lose in the first round, which they're definitely not. But they may very well lose to the Clippers, and I think they will. But this could very well go to a 7-game series. This series will definitely be very close. Which leads us to the Blazers versus Lakers series, where last year the Lakers dominated the Blazers and beat them in 5 games. Listen, the Blazers are legit this season, but like I said, Lakers are also legit. They got LeBron AD, they got their assets, and I think this is going to be a tough matchup for the Blazers to win, and I'm going to have to go with the Lakers on this one. The Lakers are going to make another trip back to the Western Conference Finals, and we are going to get the series we all hoped for last season, the LA vs. LA Western Conference Finals. I think we're definitely going to get it this season. Moving back over to the East, we have the Sixers versus the Knicks, and this one is going to have to go to the Sixers. Not much explaining to do here either, although the series will definitely be harder than the Sixers-Wizards series. The Knicks will definitely pose a greater challenge, but again, the Sixers are very talented and great on both ends, and I don't know who on the Knicks is supposed to guard Joel Embiid, because I'll tell you right now, it's not going to be Nerlens Noel. And the Sixers have a lot of great perimeter defenders, so I'm taking the Sixers here. And moving on to the Bucks versus Nets matchup, which is honestly a highly anticipated matchup, at least in my opinion. Many people would take the Nets, right? It makes sense. They have tons of talent. They have Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden. That's insane. Their offensive talent is insane, but then again, we do have to remember that their defense is trash. Their defense is not good, and the Bucks have exploited that in their 2 matchups in the regular season. The Bucks dominated. Maybe not dominated, but Giannis dominated, and the Bucks won. Now, we do have to take into consideration that Harden was not there, but it's not going to make that big of a difference. This is definitely going to be a close series. I think the Nets will be superior offensively, but the Bucks will be much superior defensively. The Bucks actually match up pretty well with the Nets, so that's going to be another downfall of the Nets. I think this series is definitely going to be an interesting one, and I could be wrong here, but I'm going to have to go with the Bucks. I know this is a hot take, but the Bucks, they match up well. They're great defensively. I feel like they are going to be able to not shut down, but definitely slow down the Nets' offensive production, which is literally the only thing they can rely on. So I'd take the Bucks. Now we have our conference finals matchup, where we go to the West and we have the Clippers versus the Lakers. This is definitely going to be an interesting one. They both match up well against each other. Kawhi versus LeBron. Definitely going to be an interesting matchup. Both teams have solid depth. But I'm going to take the little bit more experienced team in terms of like this far in the playoffs. I'm going to go with the Lakers. Listen, I told you, people are sleeping on the Lakers, bro. They are talented. They have depth. And LeBron James and Anthony Davis is still one of the best duos in the NBA. And I feel like at this point, if they can stay healthy, they can beat the Clippers in this one. This one will definitely be a close series, though, and it will definitely be a very enjoyable series. But I got the Lakers win. Moving back over to the East, we have the Sixers versus the Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals. And this one, the Bucks match up very well against the Sixers. I feel like I can confidently say Giannis and Joel Embiid is going to be a great matchup, but Giannis is probably going to win that matchup. The Sixers, they have a lot of great perimeter defenders, but then again, so do the Bucks. Drew Holiday is probably going to be playing very well in this series. Same with Chris Middleton. And honestly, I think the Bucks' depth, like I said, is very underrated, and it's going to be tough for the Sixers. Like, mainly just the Bucks have a great matchup against the Sixers, and the Sixers also aren't very experienced, unlike the Bucks. The Sixers, I find, are a little overrated, and the Bucks are very underrated. I'm going to take the Bucks. I am very confident in the Bucks this season. I'm very confident, which leads us to our finals matchup, Lakers versus Bucks. And many people would take the Lakers in this one, but not me. I'm taking the Bucks. Listen. Okay, so obviously this one is definitely an interesting matchup because we have the LeBron and AD incredible defensive Lakers. The Lakers were actually number 1 in defensive rating this year, which is definitely interesting for them. But then again, the Bucks are also solid defensively, and as I keep saying, people underestimate the value of Drew Holiday because with Giannis being the best player on that team, without Drew Holiday, Giannis is your main distributor, your main playmaker, and your main ball handler. But now Drew Holiday is in that role, and he's a solid perimeter shot creator, which is what Giannis needs. This allows Giannis to play well off ball, and the Bucks are also pretty successful running Giannis at center. Giannis versus AD should be a great matchup. I'm not sure who is going to guard LeBron. It could very well be Drew Holiday, but then again, the Bucks have great two-way depth. So do the Lakers. I think that Brook Lopez is definitely going to outperform Drummond. And I'm just confident in the Bucks. I think they have very underrated depth. I feel like Giannis gonna have a great playoff series throughout. He may struggle in this finals, but he has a great matchup against the Nets and Sixers. And with that kind of momentum, I can see him performing pretty well against the Lakers. Giannis' shot has noticeably improved this season, which will be a big key for them. Middleton should be playing well. Drew Holiday should be playing well. The Bucks are hungry, and I think I'm gonna go with the Bucks winning the championship. So, with that being said, that is my playoff bracket. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you guys leave a like, leave a comment, let me know what you think. Make sure you guys subscribe and turn on those post notifications so you don't miss any of my future videos. And with that being said, always remember, clutchness forever.